Welcome back, mostly everyone. I hope everyone is sort of refreshed and energized for just the second half of the seminar. So we already have everything set up. We have a scene setting presentation by Andrea D'Ambruoso, project manager, CM Bari. And this will be a virtual one. He's already been ready and waiting for the past 5 minutes or so. And we hope that you do enjoy it. So, Mr. Andrea D'Ambruoso, are you ready?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you so much also for giving me the opportunity for setting the scene for this panel discussion about unlocking the economic value of the sustainable blue economy. My name is Andrea D'Ambroso. I would like first to apologize to not be there with you, but I have to catch a flight later. So anyways, next time I promise I will be there. My name is Andrea D'Ambruoso again. I am the project manager of COOPMEC, this project here, which is a regional initiative founded by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, implemented by Siambari. Now I will share my screen to share my presentation with you. Hope you can see it. Can you see my presentation? Yes, I can see. All right, so before going into the subject of the project and to the scene, setting the scene of the panel, I would like to give a brief introduction of Siambari, the implementing agency of the project. Siambari is one of the four institutes of SIAM, the International Center for Advanced Mediterranean Agronomic Studies, which is an intergovernmental organization composed by 13 member states all across the Mediterranean. Siambari has one big goal: to promote the sustainable development of agriculture, fishery, and food system, thereby improving the food security and optimizing the One Health approach. One Health approach, that is the approach that is combining plant health, animal health, and human health in order to maximize the intervention and the project that we are doing. Currently, Siambari is engaged in 39 countries with more than 60 initiatives, mostly funded by the Italian corporation, but we also have other donors. And of course, while rooted in the Mediterranean for our philosophy, our history, thanks to the experience of the people working in Siambari, the Institute was able to leverage the area of intervention. Here we can see Africa, we can see Central and Eastern Europe. That little point in Central America is El Salvador. And now for the first time, we are approaching Southeast Asia with the project COOPMEC. So COOPMEC is, again, a regional initiative, and the aim of the project is to support all 11 ASEAN member states in strengthening the competitiveness and sustainability of their aquaculture and small-scale fishery sector, two areas that sit on the heart of the blue economy. But today panel, the theme of today's panel is particularly timely. So how to unlock the economic value from ocean resource while ensuring that also marine ecosystem remain healthy, productive, and resilient. So the key question today is therefore not whether conservation and economic growth can coexist, but rather how to design a system in which these two sectors reinforce themselves. So I would like to share one of the key experience of Project COOPMEC that respond to this question. And is the high-level training, ASEAN Mediterranean knowledge exchange that the project has organized in the framework of their activity. So the program was designed not as a traditional training, but rather as a platform for mutual exchange between two systems, the ASEAN system and the Mediterranean system. We have welcomed 25 delegates from the ASEAN member states for 3 weeks. The first week was dedicated to the ASEAN context. We have collected 21 country-focused documents on aquaculture and small-scale fishery that have been produced by the delegate and uploaded on our website. Now I will briefly share here the website that I'm talking about. Is the COOPMEC project. We have the country info section. We have this interactive map. If we click on Brunei, there is here the 2 country focus that have been produced and presented during the training. This one, for example, is about aquaculture and has been produced by Mr. Ajmal that will talk after me. The second week was dedicated to the Mediterranean experience. So Italian experts had shared approach that link the sustainability with economic value creation. For example, we had a dedicated class on quality standards, certification system, traceability, the importance of labeling in order to improve the access for ASEAN countries, ASEAN member states country, to higher value market, for example, the European Union market. European Union is a big market, especially for fishery product, but there is a very strict regulation, of course, for the import. Another particularly relevant concept discussed was the ASA, Aquaculture Allocated Zone. ASA are designed marine areas where aquaculture activities are planned and managed based on environmental, social, and also economic criteria. By concentrating the production in suitable location, the ASA help to reduce conflict with other coastal users such as fishery, conservation, and tourism. I heard before Shamir talking about tourism as a big income generating activity. I agree, but as he mentioned, sometimes tourism, the over tourism can be can have a negative impact on the ecosystem. Therefore, this kind of activity, the ASA, can help, let's say, mitigate also the negative effect by improving the environmental monitoring and the investment predictability. Therefore, the key insight that the spatial planning is not only a conservation tool, it is also an economic tool that creates efficiency, reduce risk, and support the long-term investment in the sector. The third week of the training was the synthesis, the merge of the 2 approaches. So first week, ASEAN context. Second week, Mediterranean context. The third week was the synthesis of these 2 approaches. And as output, we have performed 3 international webinars that saw the delegates, the ASEAN member states delegates, as the panelists, as the expert. They shared what they've learned, what they've exchanged during the past weeks. We had 3 international webinars, one on aquaculture, the other on small-scale fishery, and the other on the role of the women in the sector. Of course, all the records are available again on our website, coopmec.org. I will not play because we don't have time, but you can find it there. Final output of the training, the way forward, was the establishment of the COOPMEC community. COOPMEC community is a platform that is connecting policymaker, researcher, private sector actors, and development organizations working in fishery and aquaculture. So across the exchange, one message consistently emerged. The sustainable economy is fundamentally about value creation, not only production. So it's not about volume, but it's about value. It's about ensuring that also other activities like tourism depend and therefore incentivize the protection of healthy marine ecosystem. The experience also reinforced the importance of the regional cooperation because many challenges that ASEAN region is facing maybe are in common with the Mediterranean system, or sometimes the problem are completely different, but learning on how different systems tackle to learn their approach. For example, we've been talking in the Mediterranean Sea, we had big problem about alien species coming into the Mediterranean and somehow affecting the ecosystem. I was thinking that this was not a problem in the ocean where ASEAN countries are, but I learned that also this is a problem. So learning how the Mediterranean system tackle this problem, I think, was useful for the delegates. Here, I would like to conclude my setting the scene, we're leaving the floor maybe to Ajmal, by remembering that, again, the exchange of knowledge is crucial. The regional cooperation is crucial to leverage also the blue economy sector. Again, learning from each other approach, solution, and strategy is only strengthening each other together. So if you want to know more about the project, if you want to be part of the COOPMEC community, you can be in touch with us, with me, visit our website, and that's it for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrea D'Ambruoso, for that very entertaining scene-setting presentation. Thank you for being with us here, even though virtually, and we hope to see you here next time, yeah? Bye. So we have our next scene-setting presentation, this time by Penggana Ajmal Faiz, Pengan Haji Kamaluddin, Fisheries Officer, Head of Aquaculture Biosecurity and Compliance Section, Department of Fisheries, on their 3-week training at the Mediterranean Agronomic Institute of Bari, Italy. So let's welcome him for the second scene-setting presentation. A round of applause, everybody.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I will be sharing a few reflections from the COOPMEC program and some key lessons and ideas that stood out to me during the whole training sessions, and how we can relate these lessons to Brunei's fisheries and aquaculture sector. I hope that these reflections can help the scene for the next panel discussion that follows after this. So I think we can just jump ahead first with the experience from the training. The first value of the program that was very valuable to us was we always have a direct access to practitioners throughout the program. We had the opportunity to engage not only with regional policymakers in Europe and the Mediterranean countries, but we also interact a lot with regulators, researchers, and industry representatives and market operators. These are the people who are directly involved in managing fisheries, day-to-day operations, including setting up aquaculture systems and businesses in the region. It is valuable for us to hear from the people that can describe a lot of the problems that they have and share with us what works and what does not work, and perhaps why it doesn't work. The second part is the opportunity to network with our ASEAN peers. It is imperative that during the whole training session in the Italy, we realized that we face similar challenges in the aquaculture industry and fisheries industry as well. Just to name a few, IUU, climate change, and governance capacity constraints. These are the problems that connect us, the ASEAN member states, and also our EU counterparts during the program. And it creates opportunity for continued technical exchange and regional collaboration beyond the training itself. And the third one is it provides a valuable window and learning experience into the Mediterranean model. We don't get this chance a lot, especially coming from Brunei and ASEAN. The two systems on the surface are quite different. We farm different species, and also the Mediterranean system operates at a much larger scale. And they benefit from decades of institutional development and history. And we are able to see how these systems function in practice. And it provides a useful reference points and challenge some of our own assumptions about effective fisheries governance and how it can look like when it's practiced effectively. And lastly, I think I can speak on behalf of Hakim as well. The program was very rewarding personally and professionally. It offers insights and valuable opportunities to learn from different fisheries tradition, and being able to be situated in a very immersive condition environment, it helps us reflect and brings so many lessons coming back to Brunei. So in order to understand these lessons, I think it's important to understand the relevance to Brunei context. Brunei remains a predominantly oil and gas producing economy, and fisheries sector contributes a very small amount to our GDP, which is 0.5%. In that respect, our fisheries profile, when compared to our counterparts in the Mediterranean and the Middle Eastern countries, we share a lot of similarities. We focus a lot more on producing high-value products rather than producing a high amount of volume in the fishery industry. And this is particularly important for Brunei because we are one of the highest consumer of seafood in ASEAN, 47 kilogram per capita per person. Therefore, we have to be quite deliberate with our approach and taking into consideration the limited land use in Brunei. We have to be quite deliberate in terms of choosing what species we farm and how we approach in terms of day-to-day operation and in terms of governance. When compared with Singapore or Cambodia in this case, we share some similarities in aspects that productivity versus land use is quite similar, but I think I can draw a better similarities with Singapore, where we focus a little bit more on the use of technological advances in farming. But despite this, despite our unique circumstance, we are still not exempted from pressures faced across the region. As I mentioned previously, and this calls for more cooperation, and COOPMEC provide that valuable opportunity for us to talk and share about our experience. So now let me frame the discussion and raise the question on how sustainable is Brunei fisheries and aquaculture sector today. On the offset, Brunei has already established many of the foundations for a sustainable fishery sectors. We have marine protected areas established and conservation measures to safeguard critical habitats and fisheries resources. And we have standards and compliance frameworks that are in place to promote better aquaculture practices. We also recently strengthening our data systems, monitoring capabilities, and investment infrastructures to support a long-term sector development. However, sustainability cannot simply mean protecting fish stocks and marine ecosystems. When we define sustainability, we shouldn't see it as a one-angle approach, which is production. We should also take into consideration the livelihoods, the business, and the communities that depend on these resources. So in many ways, Brunei already possesses the necessary building blocks. So the next challenge for us is to connect these building blocks into a system that is integrated, evidence-based, and participatory. For example, when it comes to spatial planning, we should not put a heavy focus on environmental suitability alone for aquaculture. We also need to look on the socially acceptable aspects and commercially viable aspects as well. This is to ensure that the production remains manageable from biosecurity, environment, and governance perspectives. The issues is that these foundations now need to be better connected so that sustainability is not managed in separate pieces, but as one connected systems, linking conservation, production, investment, and industry participations. Lastly, allow me to conclude some key lessons that I believe are particularly relevant to Brunei. The first one is shared challenge demand a regional response. This is one of the strongest message that we took back home from the program, was that no country is dealing with these issues alone. Whether the challenge is climate change, disease management, etc., the solutions increasingly require regional cooperation, and we have to continue to have this conversation with our regional partners, and we must continue to learn and exchange our knowledge and expertise. Second, the Mediterranean narrative of quality over quantity. This is a very valuable insight, because Brunei, we face this challenge that we have a limited land use. So we have to produce on high value species and focus on producing quality products. Species such as barramundi, grouper, marine shrimps, which are identified as the driver species for the industry, provide opportunities to position Brunei within the higher value market segments. But premium positioning requires modern production. It requires strong supporting systems, including biosecurity, certification, traceability, and market confidence. The third one is that governance tools are operational and not aspirational. We were able to see the tools that we talked about in conference and meetings are currently practiced in the Mediterranean region, such as aquaculture zoning, remote sensing technologies. And it stood out to me that this technology itself is rarely the limiting factors, but the biggest challenge that we identify is to build the confidence and trust and governance on these technologies to make a better decision-based evidence, especially in the policy and governance aspect. Finally, a strong bottom-up participation distributes responsibilities. This is perhaps the most important lesson, that the industry and the farmers and the fishers play an important role throughout the Mediterranean region. This organization help establish standards, promote practices, facilitate market access, and act as a bridge between government, industry, and researchers. This is an area where Brunei still has room to grow, and at present, much of the responsibility for the sector development continues to rest with the government agencies. But this is unlikely to be the most sustainable model. A stronger and more organized industry could help promote great self-regulation, improve coordination across the sector, and strengthen market readiness and provide operators with a platform that collectively shape the future of our industry. Ultimately, the next stage of fisheries in Brunei is not simply about producing more fish. It is about building the systems, institutions, and partnerships that allow the sector to grow with credibility, resilience, and long-term sustainability. With that, I look forward to the next panel discussion and hearing the perspective from my fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajmal Faiz and Haji Kamaluddin, for your presentation. Now we do have our second panel discussion up next, which is titled Sustainable Blue Economy, Unlocking Economic Value. This session will explore how ocean conservation can generate sustainable economic opportunities while supporting Brunei's diversification goals. Now this session will be moderated by Ms. Liao Lin Ji, partner at ERM. Please welcome her to the stage. And our speakers, we would like to welcome back to the stage Brigadier Ajmal Faiz Brigadier Haji Kamaluddin, Fisheries Officer, Head of Aquaculture, Biosecurity and Compliance Section, Department of Fisheries. And we also have Muhammad Abdul Hakim bin Julaihi, Fisheries Officer, Head of Capture Fisheries Industry Section, Department of Fisheries. And my mistake earlier, we have Andrea D'Ambruoso also joining us virtually for this second panel discussion. Hi, Andrea. We also have finally Alex Cham Tatsien, General Manager of Brunei of Barramundi Group, as our final panelist. Let's have a round of applause for all our panelists and our moderator. I now invite Ms. Liao to take over the session.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your moderator this morning for the second panel discussion, where we'll be learning Brunei's ongoing efforts in strengthening its blue economy while maintaining its strong commitment in ocean conservation. Ladies and gentlemen, we've learned from earlier presentations that there are innovative technologies and approaches available that can help address some of the key challenges facing the fishery sector. I'm eager to learn how these can be applied practically, cost-effectively in Brunei. So my first question is to Andrea. I'm curious, what is the biggest economic bottleneck when trying to scale sustainable blue economy research and pilot projects out of the lab and into commercial reality? Like countries like in Brunei. Go ahead, Andrea.
Thank you, madam, for your question. In my view, there is a bottleneck about this, let's say the missing link between the scientific research and the economic, the commercial opportunities. And this missing link is the pilot action, is the testing, what has been studied in the laboratory in real life condition. Because I think that the correct pathway is, again, scientific knowledge, what is done in the laboratory, pilot testing in control environment, and finally commercial application. Because the pilot action reduces the uncertainty of investors by demonstrating the technical feasibility, the economic viability, and also the operational sustainability. Another key factor, in my opinion, is the product quality, because sustainable blue economy initiative can only become commercially successful if they generate products or service that meet market standards while maintaining environmental sustainability. I believe that another key aspect for the successful of scale up the laboratory research to economic opportunity is the empowering of the local actor. For example, in the project COOPMEC, we are having a pilot action is on tilapia rearing, so not really about ocean activity, but still one of the key components is the cash transfer modality to the stakeholder, which means that the project is handling the money directly to the beneficiary. This doesn't mean that the money came without any, let's say, as a present, of course, came with some responsibility, but it's this that empowers the local actor, let's say, bring a sense of ownership, of responsibility on the action. Also because, I mean, local actors, they know better the local market, they know better the local source. But I think that when local communities become the active economic actors, rather than just passive beneficiaries of the intervention, the chance of scaling up successful initiative is increasing significantly. Therefore, just to conclude, the gap between research and business require, in my opinion, investment into pilot action, quality assurance, and the empowerment of the local stakeholder.
Thanks, Andrea. You talk about local empowerment, and I do agree local empowerment is important, but these solutions approaches sometimes they can seem like a big leap for our fishery sectors here in Brunei, for our aquaculture operators, often needing, say, high capital upfront, right, to take that step. So, Pengiran Ajmal, if I can ask, in our local market, when you say the unsustainable farming methods are still the cheaper, often default option, how can the government or early investors de-risk the initial capital required for operators to adopt, say, basic sustainable infrastructure?
Okay, thanks for the question, Linji. I think it's a very important question to us in today's setting. We also need to recognize that there's a real challenge for farmers in Brunei that in order to carry out a full sustainability farm, it requires a high investment. So part of our task in the Department of Fisheries is that we help them understand the importance of sustainability in component in everyday day-to-day operation. And we addressed it in two manners. The first one is by directly addressing the capital gap. The government, when you operate a farm that is leased under the government and it is shared among farmers, different farmers in one area, we will be able to prepare the site for you. So we remove that capex risk early. And this is to ensure that the infrastructure that is in place it remains relevant to the current practice of farming in Brunei. And also there's a co-matching grant as well by the government, especially for starting up an expansion in which 70% of the funding is co-matched by the government and the business will be co-matching the rest. Some operators also make their own initiative when it comes to sustainability. We see a lot of trends from farmers that setting their own solar panel farms, and this position themselves better in the market, and this may also support certification in some areas as well, especially those that are very particularly important when it comes to renewable energies. And the second approach that the department is taking is removing some aspects of sustainability and operational risk. So the Department of Fisheries, we essentially help operators identify risks early when they operate. And we help them prepare and respond to the problems before it becomes too costly. So we do this by routine inspections and technical advices by the team. And we also give them an affordable access to lab services at Brunei. And we also provide a lot of training to farmers. And so also in a way for them to understand why sustainability approach is very important. And we also have a very strong national good aquaculture practice standards in place. And these standards are currently being harmonized with ASEAN member states standards in preparation for market access that may come in the near future. So just to sum it up, the challenges that we face from the farmer's point of view, to carry out a full sustainable farm is very expensive, but it is our task from the regulatory bodies to help them understand why is it important and build their confidence upon starting first step to sustainability farm. Thank you.
Thanks, Mira and Ajmal. Okay, I suppose it can be very difficult convincing operators to transition to sustainable practices, seeing that they have been accustomed to set ways for several decades. Surely, to transition, it must be worth it. It must make business sense. So I'm going to ask Mr. Alex Cham now from Barramundi. Can you please share with us Barramundi Group's experience? Have you successfully leveraged your sustainable practices to secure, say, long-term contracts, with major retailers or distributors, for example? Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Linji, for the question. So as one of the medium to large aquaculture player in Brunei, we started back then in 2021. We are also one of the beneficiaries of the ready-made infrastructure aquaculture sites prepared by the Department of Fisheries of Brunei Darussalam here. And we are based out of headquarters in Singapore. We are also one of the government-linked company invested into by the government of Brunei, and also partly owned by the Temasek funds in Singapore as well. It's part of a Brunei-Singapore joint effort in addressing food security. So in order to be a good GLC, a good corporate citizen, of course, we should lead by example for the company and practicing our aquaculture practices in Brunei responsibly as well. So right from the get-go, from the beginning of the operations of Barramundi Group in Brunei, we strive to attain the Brunei Good Aquaculture Practices. That's the first domestic certification for aquaculture. And subsequently, we move on to Best Aquaculture Practice, which is a global effort by the Global Seafood Alliance that is recognized both in the EU, the United States, and globally as well. So since the operations in 2021 up to date, where we did our first harvest back in 2022, 2023, we have already recognized and certified both our nursery, hatchery, and our grow-out farm in Pilong Rocks with BAP certifications. So prior to the certifications, the example would be our products were not able to enter certain market in the EU. For example, in Germany, they have some kind of a organic certification required, and certain hotel chains that are supporting the initiative for responsible farming, Marriott Bonvoy, Grand Hyatt Hotels, or the Sands Group, they will require such certification, BAP certification, in order to be able to subscribe as a suppliers to these hotels. So since then, we believe recently we signed up Radisson as well, just last week, after promoting and making aware of what our company products are about. We are also supplying to hospitals as well. What more important than to serve a proper seafood protein to the women and children hospital as well? Yeah. So that is where we see the value in complying with such certifications, whereby Brunei, as a small nation, we have a very small footprint. We can't produce for the masses in the huge volumes, in the millions of tons, but we're aiming in the hundreds and thousands of tons. But we aim for the market that are able to appreciate such certifications and responsibly farmed products.
Quality over quantity is what you're saying. And how willing is the current market to pay premium for this verified sustainable seafood? You get good traction?
Definitely, the traction has been increasing, and the awareness is becoming more important for nations that are importing and seafood and sourcing for seafood. In fact, just a few months ago, we are getting inquiries from the Dutch, the Netherlands,
wow,
to try to get our Bruneian Barramundi products into the Netherlands as well.
Oh. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's worth it, is what he's saying in summary. Okay, not forgetting capture fisheries, Tuan Hakim. I mean, we've talked about aquaculture and like to move to capture fisheries now. I'm just wondering, what other efforts the Fisheries Department conducting in promoting sustainable capture fisheries? I saw in our Borneo Bulletin earlier this month, Brunei is taking a bold step in enforcing a trawling ban by 2030. What efforts are being taken to properly phase this out? Can you share?
Thank you, Lee. Yes, so Brunei Darussalam will be implementing a trawl ban by 2030. So moving towards that program, so first thing first is, of course, data collection from the fishery, from the commercial fishing vessels, from the small-scale fisheries. So besides that, so if you don't have data, you cannot predict or analyze or show evidence that it's affecting the fishery sector. So currently, Brunei is hoping to establish an electronic database system. So it's for the commercial fisheries and the small-scale fisheries. So it's a platform for them to share their catch data. So from there, we can analyze the catch data. Are we in a sustainable catching environment, or are we overfishing, or are we underfishing? So currently we have a certain limit that we have to follow. So besides having the database, we also have conducting a marine resource survey. So this survey is being implemented to do that. Besides collecting data, we want to see how much fish stock is available in our waters. So from there, you can have a study on the population genetics, how the recovery period for the species to populate. And then we also have the program on a policy on minimum catch limit on lobsters and crabs. So this one, the idea is that we have a long-term sustainable catch for them. So besides just supporting the fisheries in terms of small-scale fisheries, we also support the environment and the ecosystem in the long term. So and we have also another program on redenation. So this is by moving the fishing zonations further up for the commercial fishing vessels. Initially, before 2024, we have for zone 1, it's actually from 0 to 3, but now it's 0 to 7 nautical miles. So for the commercial fishing vessel will start to catch fish only after 7 nautical miles. So this is to prevent the conflicts between the small-scale fishermen and the commercial fishing vessels. Because before this, there's a conflict between the 3 nautical mile and the 7 nautical mile. So because of this policy, now the fishermen have a lot of more bigger spaces, and then while the fishing vessels start to go up from 7 nautical miles. And this also support the industry in a small scale, because as of, I think last year, we have around 1,500 small-scale fishermen. When you talk about the distance of size of the area, it's actually small for that amount of number, because we have to distance ourselves from other fishers and fisheries or FADs for them to have a space for them to catch fish. So that's the current practice of policy we have now. And then towards the phasing out of trawlers, we have an exit program that is currently being assessed, that we want to bring in experts on fishing gears. So we want to assist our trawlers, fishermen, to move from trawling industry to other fishing gears. So it can be a long line or purse-seine. It's up to them, but as long as they change from trawlers to other fishing gears. So we also promote that they can venture into aquaculture sectors. So instead of just focusing on since they focus on the bottom species that are mostly high value species that are commercially at the moment. So we want to push them or promote them, instead of doing trawling, now to catch that for aquaculture purposes.
I see.
So it's a transition phase project.
Okay, and essentially they have now until 2030 for it's fully banned, for them to explore whether to move into aquaculture. Then that's interesting, because I'd like to ask Alex, I mean, with these potential trawlers who need to transition, say, into aquaculture, I'd like to understand from your day-to-day operational standpoint, what is the biggest financial hurdle? You know, I'm sure that they appreciate that, right? What's the biggest financial hurdle you face when trying to implement stricter environmental standards? In their opinion, it will be stricter, isn't it? Any comments on that?
Yep. So definitely, technology is evolving, and especially in the aquaculture industry, there's always new innovations, new products, new ways of farming coming about from all over the world. So Biomedic Group is one of the key early adopters. We deployed recirculating aquaculture systems in our farming, our operational farming. So we have a land-based RAS system located in Surasa that was built by the Danish guys, Billund Aquaculture back then. And it is also one of the first time where generally they have built the system for the salmon industry, for the trout industry, for cold water species. We are one of the early adopters to use such a technology for tropical finfish species in a high temperature, high salinity environment as well. So we have gathered a lot of data. We grow the fish, we grow the data. We have a huge loads of data at the moment on barramundi species and how they perform and how they grow in the RAS system here in Brunei. Definitely the technology is quite costly, but we do see the trend, a general trend of such technology being widely adopted in the region, and the cost is trending
Cheaper.
downwards. Yeah, it's going to be more, how to say, affordable, more reachable by the day-to-day farmers. And we have also visited some farms in the Finland or in Norway, whereby the traditional pond farmers, they are converting their ponds into semi-RAS system. So what's the benefit of a RAS, RAS or semi-RAS system is that you get to capture all the products, the byproducts, the waste, the feces of the fish, and which can be monetized and valorized into organic fertilizer, to remediate the mangrove forest, to farm shellfish, or any other species that is suitable to the waste from coming out from this such a system. So I think as the world get more crowded and lesser space available for farming, limited land space, it is naturally we will move towards more intensive farming, less disturbance on the open seas, to enrich the marine biodiversity in the open seas, and to keep the water clean in our environment, so that we have a future for ourselves, our investors are getting their ROI back, and of course for future generations to consume seafood protein responsibly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alex. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I pause because we are reaching the time limit. And so I'm going to pause, and I would like to ask the floor if you have any questions for our panelists before we need to move on to the next panel, because we're depriving everyone of lunch as I speak. So, members of the floor, do you have any questions? Any one of you would like to start aquaculture? Yeah. Okay, we've got one gentleman over there. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just wonder if Brunei already have our own blue economy policy or framework, because through the panel discussion, we can actually say that fishery is our main blue economy thing, because blue economy is a lot of entity within blue economy. You got tourism, you got everything that can generate economic value by using the ocean. So can we actually in Brunei, can we ascertain saying that the fishery is the forefront for the establishment of sustainable blue economy? If that's the case, can we have a policy or framework to make sure that all effort, be it in the opposition part, policy making, should be turned into or direct into the development of fishery, be it agriculture or natural catch-up?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Can I get your name?
Shaminan from Hydrobrim Consultancy.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So, Pengen Ajmal, Don Hakim, suppose this question's for you too.
Thank you, Tuan Shaminan, for the question. I think when it comes to pioneering the framework to blue economy, I think it is unfair to say that only fisheries should pioneer this framework. When it comes to blue economy, we also have different stakeholders such as oil and gas, maritime industry as well. So just to answer your question and just to bring back to my point in my presentation earlier, is that right now we are working in a fragmented approach. I feel like the Department of Fisheries is coming up with their own sustainable approach or framework, and I know other stakeholders are doing it as well. So I think it's a matter of integrating and centralizing the framework into an effective and practical approach for Brunei Darussalam. We are in a very unique position, especially for our fishery industry. Aquaculture is set to as a driver for our economy for the next perhaps 10 years. And we are looking to increase our production 8 times further by 2030. So you see the opportunity is there. So I think, in my opinion, It's just a matter of cooperation among the current stakeholders and coming up with a very effective and practical approach to the framework. That's from me.
Thank you, Brian Ajmal. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been asked to vacate the hall. No, just the stage. It's just us. So we have to say goodbye and pass it on to the next panel. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you, Mr. Alex Hakim and Brian Ajmal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you to our panelists and moderators. Please remain on stage for our group photo, just like the one before.
Wow.
Everyone, ready, one,
Thank you.
Thank you once again for that really nice inclusive photo at the end. So we now move to our final panel discussion of the morning, Innovation and Ocean Governance Enabling Resilience. And this time, moderating this session is Mr.